Welcome to the Money Love Podcast. I'm your host and money coach, Paige Pritchard. If you're ready to uplevel your results in relationship with money, you're in the right place. Each week, I give you the tools to transform your mindset, manage your emotions, and achieve results with your money you never dreamed were possible. Hi, love. Welcome to episode 8 of the Money Love Podcast, where today we are going to be talking all about how to stop impulse spending. I just have a gut feeling coming into this episode that this is probably going to be one of my most listened to episodes, just as it just sits out here and throughout the years. I think that this is really going to be a training that's going to help so many of you, and that a lot of people are going to come back to and listen to stop impulse spending. It's something that so many of us struggle with, and it's something that I'm really passionate about helping you guys stop and quit because I've been there. If you do not know my story, let me just give you a quick little insight. At one point in time in my life when I was, younger, I had just graduated from college. I basically blew through an entire $60,000 annual salary impulse spending. It was my first year out of college. I had just graduated and I decided to move at home like a true millennial does nowadays for a year. And I moved home thinking like, okay, I'll spend this year, saving up a bunch of money. And I basically did anything but that. So I was living at home for a year. I was making a $60,000 annual salary, had virtually no expenses. Obviously, my parents graciously didn't charge me rent, but also my job, they gave me a car to drive. They paid for my gas, my insurance. They paid for my cell phone bill. So when I say I virtually had no expenses, I pretty much had no expenses. And yet I still managed to spend my entire $60,000 annual salary on impulse spending. Now, after tax and stuff are taken out of that, it's not quite that much, but you know what I mean? It was a lot of money that I basically spent in an entire year. I spent it on traveling. I spent it on clothes. I spent it on expensive happy hours with my coworkers, and I spent it on eating out. I remember at the end of that year, looking at my bank account knowing, okay, I'm going to be moving out soon, going to have to start paying rent and have all these expenses that I haven't had to worry about. And I remember that was my kind of financial breaking point. It was when I was sitting down. I remember the moment so vividly, looking in my bank account thinking, I know I make decent money for a 22-year-old, but where is it? There is no money in here. Where did it all go? Coming to that realization that I had spent it all impulsively. And so that was really the day where I just said, I can't live my life like this. If I keep doing this and going down this path, I'm going to be broke for the rest of my life. And that was really when my, I call it my financial comeback. That's really the day that it all started. So I want you to know that I've been where you are. I have been at a point where I was spending so recklessly that I just felt like I couldn't stop. I felt like at points it was just automatic to me. And I had completely bought into the consumer culture lie that is sold to us that, hey, come and buy my thing, come and buy my clothes, come and buy my makeup, come and eat at my restaurant, and your life will be happy and fun and exciting, right? I'm going to fix all that for you. Last week, we talked all about how to spend money, right? And I told you that I want you to think about a spending spectrum. So you're going to have people on one end of the spectrum who hoard their money, who have a lot of fear and resistance against letting it go. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there's going to be people who impulse spend, who are spending money that they didn't plan to spend. And then oftentimes it turns into spending money that they just don't have, which results in debt. And on my Instagram a couple weeks ago, I actually did a poll and I asked, hey, what side of the spectrum do you feel like you fall on or that you lean towards? And the poll was pretty enlightening to me. So definitely more people than not struggle with the impulse spending side than the hoarding side. So it came out to be about 70% of people said impulse spending and 30% of people said hoarding. And so many people, so many, including myself at one point, struggle with impulsively spending money. And I think that the lessons that we talked about last week can be very helpful to start with on a journey to really rein in your spending, knowing that the spending is an action that you're taking. It's something that you do, which means that there is a feeling driving the spending and a thought that is causing that feeling. And this means that all of your impulse spending can be traced back to your thinking. What? I know, it's crazy. Isn't that a little trippy to think about? But here, we have to start here first. So when I was creating this training, I started out scouring the web just to see what other people were telling you about how to stop impulse spending, because I'm all about giving you a different perspective on things. And I didn't just want to be telling you the exact same stuff that everybody out there is telling you to do. And here is mostly what I found, which again is a lot like everything else in the money space. Tons of tips, so many tips. Everyone tells you, like, hey, go unsubscribe from emails that you get where you're really tempted to buy stuff. Go unfollow influencers on social media who tempt you to use their swipe up links. Go remove your credit cards from autofill to make it harder to spend the money, like blah, 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 blah. Okay, you know what I'm going to say about this, don't you? I think you do probably by this point. The tips are good. They are. I am not saying that this is bad advice, but the issue is that it doesn't address the root cause of the spending. And that's why the coaching that you and I do together is so impactful and transformative, because the type of coaching that I do is causal coaching, which means that we address the root cause of why you do what you do. Which at this point, you know what that is, right? Yes, you know. It's your thoughts and your feelings, okay? You got it. So, yes, I am all for setting up your external environment for success. At the end of the day, it is very true that our brains are incredibly lazy, okay? They want to be efficient, they hate obstacles, they hate hoops of any kind that they have to jump through. So, making it more difficult to spend the money will definitely help to an extent. But if you have not addressed the thoughts and the feelings that are causing the spending, then eventually you are always going to revert back to your old habits. You will find a way to spend the money, no matter how many obstacles you put into place. So, that is what I'm going to take you through in this episode today. When I say impulse spending, I'm talking about either A, money that you did not plan to spend. It's not impulse spending if you've made a plan for the money and you've given yourself permission ahead of time to spend it. So as an example, if your budget has $200 a month to go eat out and you want to like run through the Chick-fil-A line for lunch, like that's not impulse spending, okay? Because you've given yourself permission ahead of time and you've planned to spend that money at some point during the month, okay? So I just want to make that very clear distinction. And then two, it also could be money that you don't have, which results in debt. And yes, you can be doing both at the same time. And what I typically find is when impulse spending becomes a problem is when you're doing both at the same time. When you're spending money that you didn't plan to spend, and it goes that one step further, and you're spending money that you just flat out don't have, which means that you're driving yourself into debt. Okay, so that is how I define impulse spending. The thoughts that are driving your impulse spending, I promise you, they are so subtle and so sneaky, you more than likely don't even realize that you're having them. They happen very automatically and very quickly. And before you know it, you are feeling an urge and a desire to spend money. Oftentimes, you'll notice the feeling before you even realize the thought. The thought always comes before the feeling, but our thoughts can just be so subtle that we don't even pick up on them. So all of a sudden, we see something, we have a thought about it, and then we're feeling an urge to spend money. Our thoughts that drive our impulse spending are very simple. They're not very sophisticated. They can look a lot like this. They can look a lot like, ooh, I want that. Oh, I need that. I deserve this. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. Ooh, I have to have that. And it's funny because, yes, these are all just your thoughts, but yet they are stated in such a definitive fashion. They're thoughts, but we state them like they're facts, right? We say, I need that. I have to have that. I deserve that. And one thing that I always like to do to my own brain is I always like to slow myself down and ask myself the question, is that true? Is it true that I need that I have to have it? 99 times out of 100, the answer is no. I'm over exaggerating the need or the desire for something by the way I'm choosing to think about it. I don't need it and I don't have to have it. But these are just the types of thoughts that we have very automatically and sometimes even subconsciously that then go on to create an urge or desire within us to spend money. And then we go out and we spend the money. So, as I always tell you, you have to be the watcher of your own mind. I want you to turn the lights on. Start paying attention to the thoughts that you're having that are then creating that initial desire or urge to spend the money. So that takes us to the next step in our model, which is our feelings. And I told you in the last episode that many of us are impulsively spending money in an attempt to make ourselves feel better, in an attempt to escape negative emotion. Now, this is called buffering. I've used this term before, but let me just explain to you what buffering is. You are buffering when you are overing in something. You're overeating, you're over drinking, you're overspending, you're over Netflixing. And it's not the thing that you're doing in and of itself that's bad. It's not the eating food that's bad. It's not the drinking alcohol that's bad. It's not the spending money that's bad. It's the amount that you're doing it, and it's the intention that is driving the action. If you're overing in the action in an attempt to run away from your feelings, you're buffering. And overspending, impulse spending, is a very common form of buffering. Okay, let's take a step back here for a second. You have heard me talk about this on a previous episode, but it is one of the most important lessons. And so I really want to make sure it is drilled into your head. This skill that we are about to talk about will change your life. So listen up. Life is 50-50. It's going to be 50% positive emotion and it's going to be 50% negative emotion. But most of us, most human beings, go through life thinking that the goal is to be 100% happy all of the time. And it's not. It's not even close. I want you to consider for a moment that maybe our human experience is supposed to be a balance of positive and negative, of good and bad. There needs to be a balanced contrast so that we can appreciate and fully experience both. The goal of life is not to be happy. The goal is to be human. And experiencing negative emotion is a normal part of the full human experience. But when you've bought into the farce that the goal in life is to be happy 100% of the time, then when you start to experience negative emotion, which you will, your brain starts to freak out and think that something has gone wrong and it isn't supposed to be this way, and something is wrong with you and wrong with your life. And so then we start buffering, trying to make the negative emotion go away. So we eat too much and we drink too much and we spend money that we don't have and we binge Netflix for 14 hours. And then guess what? You know this. You are always left with some sort of hangover, either an actual literal hangover or a spending hangover, a food hangover, a binge hangover. There is always going to be more negative emotion waiting for you on the other side of buffering that we have to deal with and process. Because as we know, the buffering doesn't make us feel any better. We think it's going to, but then it never does. And this is the fascinating thing about buffering, is that it creates this loop that we just keep spinning in, and then eventually we can't escape. Because people think that when they buffer, when they eat really good food, or when they escape an alcohol, or when they're like, I'm just going to lay here on the couch and watch Parks and Rec for 14 hours, we think that that is going to pull us out of our negative emotion. And we think it's going to push us into the positive land. We think it's going to make us feel so much better. But we know that it doesn't, because what does it do? All it does is just drives us deeper into negative emotion. And so here, it creates this loop. Let me paint this picture for you. I feel a negative emotion. Ooh, okay, I'm not feeling so good. Let me go out and buy this thing because that is going to fix everything. It's going to make me feel better to have this thing or this item or this experience. So we go buy the thing. And then 2 days later, the allure wears off, and now we have more money charged on our credit card and more crap in our house. And we start beating ourselves up. We're like, ugh, why did I do that? I shouldn't have spent that money. I'm so stupid. I'm so undisciplined. I need to get my life together, blah, blah, blah. So, wow. Well, all that negative self-talk and self-treatment makes us feel even more terrible than we did before. So guess what? Now we go out and we continue to try to spend ourselves out of the negative emotion. And all we're doing is each time we do that, we're just digging ourselves deeper and deeper and deeper and pushing ourselves farther into negative emotion. This is the scary and destructive loop that so many people are caught in. But you got me. Together, we're going to work ourselves out of it, okay? Listen, I am telling you what, the one thing, if you take anything from this episode, the one thing that you can do to curb your impulse spending is learning how to allow and how to process through any and all emotions, even the negative ones, even the ones that are not so fun to feel. When you can master the skill of allowing and processing through emotions, there is nothing in the world, hear me, nothing that you cannot do or that you cannot stop doing. Everything you want in life, your dream life, it's sitting on the other side of you being able to feel a feeling. This is one of the first things that they teach you when you become a life coach. They're like, listen, I know your whole life you've been told don't feel your feelings, but that's the one thing you're going to have to do if you want to get really good at this. And when I learned this concept, truly, y'all, I felt like I had unlocked the secret to the universe. I was like, what? Like, you're just telling me that I just have to feel my feelings? Because I had never done that in my life up until this point. Because go here with me. What if the next time that you were feeling sad or bored or insecure or unworthy or unwanted, you simply just sat with that emotion and you just allowed it? Because you knew that it was a totally normal part of your 50-50 human experience. And nothing had gone wrong. There was nothing wrong with you. There was nothing wrong with your life. And so instead of buffering it away with spending money that you didn't plan to spend and that you don't have in order to make yourself feel better, which, hello, we've established doesn't work, instead you just welcomed it in. You breathed it in and you processed through it. I get it. Right? I know right now you might be sitting there just being like, what? This is the answer? Like, you're telling me if I want to just stop spending money, I just have to be able to feel my feelings? I know that this is going to be new to so many of you. It was certainly new to me. And I've had to work tremendously hard over this past year to hone this skill. We're not taught to feel our emotions. Feeling is an ability that most of us need to learn and to practice because we're taught by our conditioning and by consumer culture to escape our emotions by changing our external world instead of just sitting with them and allowing them. But instead, what if you just said, world, bring it on? There is no emotion and no feeling that I am not willing to feel. I am open to feeling the best, and I'm also open to feeling the worst. I'm willing to feel anxious and embarrassed and insecure and inferior and scared and defeated, all of the worst emotions, all of the worst feelings that I can possibly imagine having to feel and sit with. I'm in. Bring them on. A feeling is simply just a vibration in your body. That is all it is. As much as we want to resist and avoid feeling our feelings, I really want you to ask yourself, what am I fighting so hard for? What am I working so hard to avoid? Because at the end of the day, there is no feeling that can kill you. All feelings are harmless. A feeling is just a vibration in your body. And when you know these two things, when you know that one, that there's no feeling that will kill you and that you can't feel and fully experience, and two, when you know that life is 50-50. And so nothing has gone wrong when you're experiencing negative emotion. When you know and believe those two things, then we get to a point where we don't need to overspend or buy things trying to make ourselves feel better. We can embrace the negative emotion and we can allow it rather than resisting it. So here's how we start to feel our feelings and start processing through our emotions. This is the life-changing skill that you and I are going to work on to change together, which is simply just called allowing your emotions. And it's a skill that you have to learn and practice. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to experience a negative emotion. Let's just say, let me paint this picture for you, okay? This probably is going to sound eerily familiar to you because it happens to me all the time. So you're on social media. You get on Instagram, your favorite influencer pops up in her perfect home, in her perfect outfit, with her perfect husband, with her perfect kids, and her perfect golden doodle. And she's got all of her swipe up links, right? You can buy everything that she has. She's basically giving you the opportunity to create her life within your own. And you have a thought like, oh, her life is so much better than mine. Okay, that's just a thought, right? But you have the thought, her life is so much better than mine. That thought is going to make you feel probably a couple things. It's going to make you feel deprived, insecure, inferior. These feelings don't feel so good, obviously. Our primitive brains don't like to feel deprived or insecure or inferior. So in the past, what you would have done is you would have used her swipe up links and you would have purchased her top and purchased her shoes or whatever it is that she's selling you. Now, more than likely, this would not have been money that you planned to spend. More than likely, it was spent impulsively, right? Because you didn't give yourself 24 hours to be coming from your prefrontal power, the human part of your brain. And it's an action that is being driven by very unproductive feelings, right? It's being driven by that deprivation, by that insecurity, by that inferiority. But here's what we can do instead. Okay, that's probably how it's played out in the past, but let me just paint you this other picture because this isn't how it has to play out. Here's what we can do instead. You develop a level of awareness of what's going on in your own mind and the feelings that it's created within you. So first, when you have the thought of, oh, her life is so much better than mine, you can just stop yourself and be like, first of all, brain, that's a thought, not a fact. There's many thoughts that I could have about this girl and her life. But yet, of all the thoughts that I have available to me, I'm choosing to think, oh, her life is so much better than mine. So having the awareness of like, hey, that's just a thought. And then noticing the feelings that it's creating within you. Okay. So then what we do is we simply just acknowledge that those feelings are there. Let's just pick one of those emotions. Let's just pick insecure. So here's what you're going to do. If you're by yourself or if you're with people who love you and aren't going to think that you're completely crazy, I want you to say out loud, I'm feeling insecure right now, and that's okay. I can feel insecure. That brings a level of awareness to your emotions, and you're almost just like calling it out. You're acknowledging its presence. I'm feeling insecure right now, and that's okay. I can feel insecure. After that, I want you to start observing the emotion with compassion and curiosity. And I simply just want you to breathe it in. I want you to start describing it to yourself. Pay attention. Remember, it's just a vibration in your body. Pay attention to how it feels in your body. Where is it in your body? Is it in your stomach? Is it in your chest? Is it in your throat, in your head? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it high vibe, low vibe? All right, move towards it. Breathe it in. Know that you can handle the emotion. You can do it. You can handle it. This reminds you, again, as you're going through and you're describing it, when you're saying, okay, this is in my stomach a little bit, makes me feel a little bit queasy, kind of makes me short of breath a little bit. I can feel it in my throat. It's definitely very like a low energy, right? This reminds you that it's simply just a feeling in your body. All you have to do is just sit with the vibration. Something that I always like to say to myself is, this is just my time to feel insecure, right? Like this just reminds me that this is just my time in life to be feeling my 50% negative part of my life. And I don't need to run out and try to fix it by trying to buffer it away. It's fine. There is no emotion that I am not willing to open myself up to and process through and feel. Let me tell you, this year has been a very transformative year for me. I have done so many things this year. Well, I don't even want to say this year in 2020, really, probably the past 6 months that I have been wanting to do for so long. This podcast is one of those things. I've wanted to do a podcast for years, yet I haven't. Why? And so many people are asking me, like, what's going on? Like, what changed? What's the secret? Like, people are picking up on it that I'm just like blasting through, creating so many things, being so productive. And listen, I want you to know that there's no secret. It hasn't been like some time hack. It hasn't been a productivity hack. I learned how to feel my feelings. This is one of the first things that you learn how to do in life coaching and my certification. It's one of the first lessons that they take you through. And after going through that, I made the decision that I was going to open myself up to feeling any and all emotions, to feeling failure, to feeling stupid, to feeling insecure, to feeling exposed. Because this one concept has changed my life. The reason that I had been avoiding doing all of this stuff in the past is because I wasn't willing to feel all those things. I wasn't willing to put myself out there, and I wasn't willing to feel failure or feel stupid or feel exposed to people. But now that I know that a feeling is harmless and it's simply just a vibration, and I've learned the skills to sit with it, acknowledge it, call it out, process through it, now there is no emotion that I am not willing to process through. I am willing to feel all of it, which is why I wake up every day and I'm getting so much done, because I'm like, listen, I know that this is going to be hard. I know I'm not going to feel comfortable. I know I'm going to feel exposed. I know that I'm opening myself up to criticism, but that's okay, because now I know that it's fine and I can feel and process through it, and it's not going to kill me. You can develop this skill and you can do the same. Just sit back. I'm telling you, sit back, learn this skill, and watch your life transform. Watch your impulse spending stop. Watch your relationships transform. Watch your productivity skyrocket. There are so many amazing benefits that you're going to experience from this one tool, other than just stopping your impulse spending. Feel your feelings. There is nothing to escape. There is nothing to run away from. There is nothing that the spending is going to solve. Remember, your impulse spending is a false pleasure. Your primitive brain wants to convince you that the spending of the money is very important because it's become a concentrated pleasure in your life. And you've been conditioned to crave it and then automatically respond to that craving and to that desire. But like we talked about, impulse spending has the opposite effect of what your lizard brain wants to tell you that it's going to. All it's doing is it's simply just driving you deeper and deeper and deeper into negative emotion, and for so many, deeper into debt. Okay, here's my disclaimer, all right? This process is not going to be comfortable. Boy, let me tell you, this is going to be the work of your life, feeling your feelings. So I don't want to paint this picture for you that this process is going to be fun or feel good, because it's not. But let me tell you, it is worthwhile. If you want your life to change, you have to be willing to feel your feelings. Every transformation that you're seeking, every goal that you want to hit, the dream life that you want to build, is simply on the other side of you being able and willing to feel any and all emotions, the good and the bad. So I want to end this episode by reading you an excerpt from the book Untamed by Glennon Doyle. It is an incredibly popular book right now. It's been number one on the New York Times bestselling list for pretty much all of 2020. So there's a very good chance you've probably read this, but if you haven't, go read it. Again, it's called Untamed by Glennon Doyle. She has a chapter in the book, and the chapter is simply just called Feel. And I remember reading this chapter right around the time that I was learning about this skill of feeling feelings. And I just thought that she stated everything so beautifully. And I want to share this with you to kind of close us out in this episode. She says, it's okay to feel all of the stuff that you're feeling. You're just becoming human again. You're not doing life wrong. You're not doing it right. If there's any secret you're missing, it's that doing it right is just really hard. Feeling all of your feelings is hard, but that's what they're there for. Feelings are for feeling, all of them, even the hard ones. The secret is that you're doing it right, and that doing it right hurts sometimes. I didn't know that I was supposed to feel everything. I thought I was supposed to feel happy. I thought that happy was for feeling, and that pain was for fixing, and numbing, and deflecting, and hiding, and ignoring. I thought that when life got hard, it was because I had gone wrong somewhere. I thought that pain was weakness and that I was supposed to just suck it up. But the thing was that the more I sucked it up, the more food and booze I had to suck down. Being fully human is not about feeling happy. It's about feeling everything. What I thought would kill me didn't. Every time I said to myself, I can't take this anymore, I was wrong. The truth was that I could, and I did take it all. And I kept surviving. I learned that I'd never be free from pain, but I could be free from the fear of pain. And that was enough. I am here to keep becoming truer, more beautiful versions of myself again and again forever. To be alive is to be in a perpetual state of revolution. Whether I like it or not, pain is the fuel of revolution. Everything I need to become, the woman I'm meant to be next, is inside my feelings of now. Life is alchemy, and emotions are the fire that turn me into gold. If I can sit in the fire of my own feelings, I will keep becoming. Consumer culture promises us that we can buy our way out of pain. Consuming keeps us distracted, busy, and numb. Numbness keeps us from becoming. Don't avoid it. You need it to evolve, to become, and you are here to become. There is no glory except straight through your story. Pain is not tragic. Pain is magic. Suffering is tragic. Suffering is what happens when we avoid pain and consequently miss our becoming. So my goal is to stop abandoning myself and to stay, to trust that I'm strong enough to handle the pain that is necessary to the process of becoming. I can't know what will come next in my life. I always know what comes next in the process. I know that when the pain and the waiting are here, the rising is on its way. That's all I got for you. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Money Love Podcast. If you're loving the podcast, then I want to invite you to join me in the Overcoming Overspending membership. It's where we take this work deeper and apply the concepts and coaching from each week's episode into your own life. By being a member, you have exclusive access to my Overcoming Overspending process, 10 monthly live coaching calls with me, a private podcast, members-only community, monthly money topic and challenge, bonus courses, and so much more. There's nowhere else like it out there to level up your finances and life. Simply go to overcomingoverspending.com to join, and you can enter in the code MLP30 at checkout to save $30 on your first month inside the membership. See you inside.